Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 114th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it had, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. Ice Cube is obviously no stranger to this channel, being featured both in the form of his output with NWA and his classic first album. However, when it comes to influential 90s albums by West Coast MCs, I doubt there's another one that I haven't covered that's as essential and impactful as Death Certificate. The only person even coming close to being in the same conversation as Cube is Tupac, but with both him and Ice Cube being artists I've covered on this page already, I opted to give this spot to Cube's amazing second album. It really isn't too common for your debut solo album to be this influential and game-changing, and then not just avoiding the sophomore slump entirely, but arguably even top your debut. While there's a good amount of debate amongst fans, you really can't go wrong with either classic, as both frequently take the number one spot in rankings of Cube albums from worst to best. The main change going from America's Most Wanted to Death Certificate is a vastly different sound and MO despite only being released 1 year apart. This can mostly be attributed to the first LP featuring production from the Lynch Mob and the Bomb Squad, which saw the West Coast gangsta sound filtered through a more noisy and grimy style reminiscent of New York. However, on the follow-up here, while there's still some pretty dark, menacing undertones, it fits more snugly into the pantheon of G-Funk classics that came out in the first half of the 90s. You also have to keep in mind that this thing was more than ahead of its time, considering it preceded The Chronic, Doggy Style, and the majority of West Coast classics in this vein, outside of debuts from the likes of Above the Law, Compton's Most Wanted, or DJ Quick. This was before Tupac's discography would even begin. Basically, what I'm trying to say is very few LPs in this subgenre came before Death Certificate. The fire behind this album got ignited even further due to the budding tensions between Cube and the other NWA members and affiliates post the crew's infamous breakup. The overall aesthetic of this project was already arguably darker than any of the work his contemporaries were releasing, but the strain on his relationship with his former comrades came to a boiling point with one of the most iconic diss tracks ever, No Vaseline. Of course, there wasn't any shortage of legendary disses to be produced from this beef, but even with all-time classics like Real Motherfucking G's, personally, I think Cube's banger here is in the same league as Hit 'Em Up or Ether. I also love the choice to finish off the project with that powerhouse of a diss track, which, as I mentioned in the review for it, is the same thing Spice One would do a few years later with You Done Fucked Up on the end of his album that also had a KKK in the scheme with America's Nightmare. Cube had a similar deep tone that he used to hold down and control the mic, and he gives us a number of memorable moments that more current rap titans like Kendrick Lamar have repurposed and repackaged by sampling material on here for massive hits on Good Kid, Mad City. Even when it came to the decade this album dropped, the waves it made in the culture were palpable, with another iconic beat from here being sampled in Prince Paul's audio equivalent to a film, Prince Among Thieves. Cube's consistency in the early 90s was virtually unchallenged, as from 1990 to 1993, he was releasing absolutely nothing but fire. You could technically argue this started even earlier in '88 with Straight Outta Compton, considering he was the main lyrical mastermind behind that game changer as well. From America's Most Wanted in 1990, going to Death Certificate in '91, to 1992's The Predator and Lethal Injection the following year. You really can't go wrong with any of these. Of course, it isn't as if Ice Cube just never made any quality music after 1993, but the double-edged sword with having such an impressive run of albums is anything that doesn't reach the level the first few did can get perceived as a disappointment. But what can't be seen as a disappointment is the overall trajectory of Ice Cube's career, as he's undeniably one of the most instantly recognizable names in the history of hip-hop. He also has a pretty good range as an actor, and while his more recent movies and opinions may not be of the highest quality, it's still important to remember just how massive films like Friday and Boys in the Hood were, and still are to the culture. If I had a nickel for every time I've heard a line from a drill rapper about running like Ricky, I'd be able to pay for Ricky's college tuition. While most classic LPs of this stature often have a team of producers and engineers behind them, the instrumentals on Death Certificate are impressively handled only by Cube, Sir Jinx, and the Boogeymen. This album was creatively divided into two sides, with the Death side and the Light side, both of which feature Khalid Abdul Muhammad. He's the only feature on the former side, but the latter also has appearances by Deadly Threat, Cam, The Mood Circle, King T, and JD. While I already discussed it at length, I really can't leave No Vaseline out of my three favorite tracks, with the other two being A Bird in the Hand and Steady Mobbin'. For honorable mentions that are still more than worth your time, I'd have to recommend songs like The Wrong Former NWA Member to Fuck With, My Summer Vacation, Man's Best Friend, True to the Game, Doing Dumb Shit, Us, Black Korea, Alive on Arrival, I Wanna Kill Sam, and Colorblind. Thank you for watching my 114th video. Next time we're going back over to the East Coast to finish this group off with another sophomore album that's equally as important and impactful as this one, as it's actually the single highest selling rap album to come from the 90s period. So give that one a watch when it drops, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs are off this California masterpiece. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.